There is a principle that Emmet Fox considered perhaps the most ignored in all of spiritual science. It is not about praying for more consecutive hours, nor is it about repeating affirmations at the break of dawn, nor does it involve visualizing wealth in some hazy, abstract manner. It is about something so precise, so incredibly simple, that the vast majority of seekers discard it entirely, judging it as far too earthly and material to possess any genuine spiritual merit. But this is a profound misunderstanding of how the universe operates. The divine mind, Fox taught, operates through exact, unyielding precision. The infinite intelligence did not create a vague, generic flower. It created petals with exact mathematical proportions and sacred geometry. It did not create a chaotic, undefined ocean. It created tides governed by perfect, predictable rhythms and lunar cycles. Every orbit of every planet, every structural bond in every element of nature is bound by exactitude. Why, then, do we arrogantly expect that the supreme law of abundance will deliver its fruits to us without demanding any precision on our part? Emmet Fox spent decades deeply observing why a small minority of people received profound, permanent financial transformations while others, despite praying with equal or even greater intensity, remained hopelessly trapped in the exact same circumstances year after year. He discovered that the difference was not found in their measure of faith, nor in their religious devotion, nor in the sheer volume of their spiritual effort. The secret was found in something that absolutely no one else was teaching at the time. That difference was the figure. A single, specific financial figure, written by hand every single night before sleep, executed with conscious faith and an absolute spiritual understanding of what was taking place. To understand why the physical act of writing a specific figure carries such massive and real spiritual power, it is absolutely necessary to comprehend how Emmet Fox viewed the relationship between the human mind and the divine mind. Fox taught that the divine mind is the only real, active power that exists in the universe, and that your human mind is simply its localized channel of expression in the material world. The central problem, Fox explained, is that the majority of people use their personal channel to transmit violently confused and contradictory signals. They pray with their words asking for abundance, but their internal dialogue thinks solely of lack. They verbally declare prosperity, but their emotional state radiates pure scarcity. This internal contradiction blocks the flow of divine provision just as effectively and thoroughly as a massive concrete dam blocks a rushing river. The nightly writing of a specific figure resolves this contradiction in an elegant and immensely powerful way. When you physically write a concrete number with your own hand, your conscious mind and your subconscious mind are forced into temporary alignment, receiving the exact same crystal clear signal. There is zero ambiguity. There is no internal contradiction. There is only a precise, mathematically exact instruction being delivered directly to the infinite intelligence that governs all physical manifestation. Fox frequently compared this process to the deliberate act of an architect drawing a set of blueprints. The towering building does not yet exist anywhere in the three-dimensional physical world, but it already exists with total, undeniable precision on the paper. That blueprint is the spiritual cause. The eventual steel and glass building is simply the material effect. Your written figure, drafted every night, is the exact spiritual blueprint of your manifested prosperity. Fox studied the ancient teachings on manifestation deeply and found something critical that modern translations had dangerously diluted. When it was said, "Ask, and you shall receive," the original Greek language implied a petition that was hyper-specific and sharply defined, not a vague, generalized wish for better things. Precision was an intrinsic, unavoidable part of the spiritual principle. Fox explained to massive congregations that God, as principle, cannot answer a prayer that has no defined form. In the exact same way that a master tailor cannot possibly cut a suit for you without knowing your exact measurements, intention without precision produces manifestation without form. The night is specifically chosen for this profound practice for reasons that go deep into the mechanics of consciousness. During the transition into sleep, your conscious mind, the analytical ego that argues, doubts, and fears, slowly withdraws its guard. The subconscious mind is left wide open, working without the suffocating interference of your daily anxieties. Whatever is firmly planted in your consciousness right at that sacred threshold between wakefulness and sleep is processed intensely for hours in the deepest levels of the mind, which is the exact place where all true manifestation has its origin. Writing the figure in those specific moments is planting a seed in soil at its absolute peak of spiritual fertility. The subconscious receives the figure, accepts it as a command, and throughout the quiet of the night, works in absolute silence to align your external circumstances with that internal truth you just declared. Consider a woman from Veracruz named Sophia. She managed a small family business, and her income was wildly erratic, sufficient some months, terrifyingly insufficient in others. The core of her exhaustion was not the scarcity itself, but the permanent, knowing uncertainty of never knowing what would arrive. That uncertainty robbed her of her peace far more aggressively than any concrete debt. Upon discovering Fox's teachings on the written figure, she realized a hard truth. Financial uncertainty in the outer world is always, without exception, a reflection of uncertainty in the internal consciousness. The outer world is merely a mirror reflecting the inner state with ruthless precision. If you demand certainty on the outside, you are required to cultivate certainty on the inside first. That very night she wrote down a specific, exact monthly figure that represented real, unshakable stability, surrounding it with a brief prayer of gratitude. It was not a panicked act of desperation, but a calm, conscious act of faith. She felt a profound calm wash over her, a sudden internal direction after years of wandering aimlessly. If this teaching is touching something profound in your heart and awakening your understanding of the law, leave a like on this video so more people can discover the true power of scientific prayer. Subscribe to the Julian Vance channel to continue receiving these deep spiritual truths that transform lives, and let me know in the comments if you have ever boldly written down a specific figure with faith. There is a fundamental, unbridgeable difference between desiring abundance and claiming abundance. Emmet Fox taught that desire lives purely in the level of the ego, an entity that inherently operates from a position of lack and separation. A claim, however, lives entirely in the level of the spirit, which perpetually operates from a position of absolute plenitude and divine right. This distinction was never just philosophical for Fox. It was entirely practical and was the determining factor in the results his students achieved. When you write a specific figure every night as a conscious spiritual act, you are absolutely not asking like a desperate beggar pleading at a locked door. You are stepping forward and claiming your exact inheritance as a legitimate heir. Every single human being is a direct expression of the infinite source of all provision. Financial abundance is not some arbitrary prize that God hands out to those who suffer the most or who act the most devout. It is a universal inheritance that belongs to everyone by absolute divine right. The chronic problem Fox observed was that people had deeply internalized a toxic theology of scarcity, one that falsely taught them to ask with an excessive, cowering humility, as if abundance itself were somehow suspicious, unholy, or sinful. This limiting, deeply flawed belief blocks manifestation far more effectively than any ruined economy or external circumstance ever could. Poverty of consciousness will always, inevitably, precede poverty of circumstance. Writing your figure is the ultimate act of spiritual recognition, declaring that you finally understand the divine mind wishes to express itself through you as limitless prosperity. The technique of the written figure that Emmet Fox taught was never meant to be perceived as an arbitrary ritual or a superstitious habit. On the contrary, it possesses a highly precise spiritual architecture, which he painstakingly explained step by step to his most committed students. Every single element of this process serves a deeply specific function in the deliberate activation of the law of divine manifestation. The first crucial element of this architecture is the physical notebook, which must be dedicated exclusively to this nightly practice. Fox taught that physical objects actually absorb and retain the spiritual energy of repeated, focused acts. A notebook used solely to write your specific figure and your accompanying declarations of gratitude ceases to be mere paper. It becomes a powerful recipient of accumulated faith. It serves as a tangible point of spiritual focus that dramatically amplifies your intention every single time you open its cover. The second unyielding element is the physical act of writing by hand. Fox was absolute in his instruction that this must never be done on a typewriter, and in our modern era, this translates directly to never using digital devices, phones, or tablets for this practice. The human hand is the most direct and potent instrument of manifestation that we possess. When your hand writes, your entire physical nervous system and body participate in the act of the declaration. The flowing ink upon the paper creates a permanent, physical form of your internal intention. It builds a literal, tangible bridge between the invisible spiritual world of cause and the visible material world where the effect must take place. The third element is the timing. You must perform this in those specific, fleeting moments just before turning off the light and closing your eyes to sleep. This delicate threshold between wakefulness and slumber is what Fox referred to as the sacred door of consciousness. It is the precise window where your subconscious mind is most remarkably permeable, entirely open and receptive to receiving new, commanding truths that will forcibly overwrite your deeply ingrained historical patterns of financial scarcity.